The Point. 98.7 CKPM FM.
.98.7 The Point, that's U2. Still haven't found what I'm looking for. They're in town tonight, 30th anniversary of the Joshua Tour. It's going to be a mixed-up weather kind of day today. If you're living on the waterfront, you probably got a beautiful view. If you're living up on the hill, you got a view. If you're living down here with me, I got a view of four walls and three wonderful people. I have got Wayne Norton with us, the pride of Port Moody. His lovely wife, Trudy's here. And I was told, let's see, how do we put this? Derek, the partner, will be there to help us. So how are you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing fine, Rod. Thank you.
So here's a bit of a background on Wayne. Wayne is the pride of Port Moody. There's a lot of baseball we're going to talk about here. But before we get to that, something very important is happening on June 4th. Do you want to talk a little bit about, you've got ALS.
Yes, I do have ALS. I found out about, the common name is the Lou Gehrig's disease. That's what everyone thinks of it. And I found out about it 2 years ago. So I'm going to participate in the annual ALS walk Sunday, June the 4th at Riverside High School. The registration, Rod, is at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'd like to thank them for raising money for all us ALS patients. And I'd like to mention Christine Hilliard, who is the walk coordinator.
She's a wonderful lady. I've known her for a number of years.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. And Wendy Toyer, who's the CEO of the ALS BC Society. So I'd like to thank all those people and, of course, all the sponsors. If you don't mind me mentioning.
No, you know what? You can't do it without sponsors, and, you're a big part of this, so why not? Yeah.
Well, a gold sponsor is the Women in Film Television from Vancouver. And the official videographer of the event is Sydney of Sydney Jib Productions. And a very popular sponsor will be the bronze sponsor, who's Willie and Tammy of Willie's Galley down by the waterfront there.
Yeah.
Yeah, where all the boats are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to have their own fundraiser.
Great. Sounds like a fun time. So I imagine they're going to do the trails around behind Riverside there because you've got Gates Park right beside it. So there's a lot of places to do this walk.
I think so.
Yeah, and now you're in a chair because of what Lou Gehrig's disease has done to you. And a bit of a background. So I'm from Manitoba. I'm from Birds Hill. You're from Winnipeg.
I was born in Winnipeg, but then I moved to Creelman, Saskatchewan, a couple of months after I was born, and then moved out here to Vancouver when I was 5.
Wow.
So I've been here for 69 years.
It sounds like, moving here when you're 5, you're almost born here then because you've been here your whole life. Yeah. Now, you're quite the big deal when it comes to baseball. The name, when people talk about Wayne Norton, it's synonymous with Canada's baseball history.
Well, thank you. I've been playing baseball since I was 5 or 6 years old.
When did you discover you had a knack and you knew you were good enough to get up to the big league? When did you discover that?
Well, I don't think I discovered it. It's just I played locally around here in Port Moody until I was about 13. And then there were not enough players in Port Moody at that time. Port Moody was probably a population of about 2,000 or 3,000 people.
Yeah.
So I had to go up to Coquitlam to play, and we won the Babe Ruth Championship.
And, I'm thinking because of the people that had to come from Port Moody to go up to Coquitlam, that having that hill there, because you guys had to traverse the hill, whether you took your bike or you walked, you usually didn't take bus up there, did you? So to get up there, that actually helped with your cardio and your ability to play the game.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of times Bob Baird and Bob was my next door neighbor, and we had to walk sometimes to get up there and leave about an hour early, of course.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
And then we continued to play at age 16, 17. It was called Connie Mack Baseball. And we won the provincial championship there also.
Nice.
And it was there that a part-time scout with the Chicago Cubs watched me play and said, would I be interested in a scholarship at Whitworth College in Spokane? And I said, of course I would be, because I was just planning on going on to school at UBC. I remember to this day flying into Trail and this guy picking me up and drove me to Whitworth where I tried out. And I liked basketball even more than baseball. So I got a full ride in basketball and baseball.
Wow.
At Whitworth, that was Trudy, what was that, 1960, I guess. Yeah.
Now, your wife Trudy is here now. There's a cool story there because you guys are childhood sweethearts.
That's right. We still are after 53 years.
Wow, that's amazing. So where did you guys meet?
In high school.
In high school here in Port Moody?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, high school in Port Moody was the same location as across the street here from you people.
Wow.
It's a middle school now.
Yep.
But it was a high school when I went to school. But it got burned down.
Probably by you, right?
Yeah, because that's right, I immediately became an honor roll student.
That's amazing.
After it got burnt down, they don't have records like they do today, so.
That's right.
I lie about that.
Wayne Norton is here, the pride of Port Moody. He has a chance to rub shoulders with some of the greatest baseball greats in history. We're going to take a bit of a break and give Wayne a bit of a rest here. Now, Wayne has got ALS. He's here to talk about the Walk for ALS, which is happening June 4th, Sunday, over at Riverside. And we'll give you the details on that again. So we're going to come back and talk to Wayne in a second. Here's some John Fogerty. And when you think of baseball, you got to think of this song. Here's Center Field on the Point. 98.7 The Point. That is center field John Fogerty, a very special guest. Honored to have him here, a member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, the pride of Port Moody, Mr. Wayne Norton. Wayne, you have led a blessed life, everything from your lovely wife and your family to your chance to live the dream by playing baseball. And you've been around the world, well, North America more so than around the world, right?
Oh, yes. We're kind of jumping years here, but around 1996, I started as a scout. And, of course, my playing days are over. I'm 74 now. But I scouted for Baltimore across Canada. And then in the year 2000, Pat Gillick, who's a close friend of mine, and Pat is in the both Hall of Fames, the big one in Cooperstown, and he's also in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. And Pat was responsible for getting me into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. He nominated me, and along with a lot of supporters.
Well, you look at it, Pat Gillick did amazing things with the Toronto Blue Jays, and you know, rightfully so, he nominated you, but you earned your way there, because I firmly believe that if you weren't the caliber of athlete and human being, you know, you wouldn't be in there. So with Pat's help and a lot to do with you, you're there, and that's very cool.
Well, thank you very much. And I owe Pat a lot of things in baseball, because he helped me start the National Baseball Institute earlier, much earlier, about, that was 1986. We can talk about that later. I think I got started I was talking about scouting.
Yeah, scouting, yep. And Baltimore.
Yeah, and then Pat went from Baltimore to Seattle in the year 2000, and he took me with him. And then, he was there for about 8 years, and then he went to Philadelphia. And I stayed in Seattle. I'm still in Seattle. And I scouted Canada and Europe.
Wow.
So yes, I was fortunate in that I did a lot of traveling, but I'm still fortunate that even now I'm still scouting, and I'd like to thank the Seattle Mariners for keeping me on, because they could have dumped me.
That's not what it's about, though, because there is a heart out there, and especially in baseball, there's a lot of heart, and you know you're part of the family, right?
Yeah, I'm part of the Seattle family for sure.
Now, you said, this is interesting, because you said you go to Europe to scout, and you don't think of baseball as a European thing. When you talk about batting averages and hitting balls, you usually think about cricket. But there is obviously some baseball happening in Europe.
Oh, yeah, it's getting more and more popular each year. But, of course, the big sport there is soccer, or football, by far. But they're playing baseball now in every European country. The best country is probably Holland, followed by Italy, and then Spain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Now, you got your career, you started it in 1961. Now, you've been with the Yankees, the Kansas City Athletics, who are now the Oakland A's. You helped the Montreal Expos, Baltimore Orioles. Seattle Mariners is where you are now. You started the National Baseball Institute. You've probably come across one or two guys that have, I'd say superstardom, whether the guys you scouted or guys you played with.
Well, yeah, I remember playing, you're right, I got started in 61, then I got drafted with, by Kansas City in a major league draft. So my first spring training in 62 was with Kansas City. And I remember the first player that I played against was, or batted against, was Warren Spahn. And the second day I went up to Vero Beach. I had just turned 19 and faced Sandy Koufax.
Wow.
And both of those guys are famous Hall of Famers now.
Yeah.
And Hank Aaron played in that first game also against me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard you rub shoulders with Reggie Jackson at some point.
Yeah, that goes back to 1967. Because in 1966 I played in Vancouver. And I was the only Canadian on the team. So Nat Bailey, the owner, took a liking to me because all of the players were Americans or Dominicans or Puerto Ricans. And I mentioned Nat Bailey because he ended up that winter after my first year loaning me money to buy this property in Port Moody on the water.
Yeah.
It was about an acre of water frontage, and I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, so Nat gave me the down payment, which was only $3,000.
Wow. And you've lived your life, I mean, the better part of the 50-some-odd years down there then.
Yeah, I haven't moved. It was an acre of water frontage, and we have subdivided it and whatnot now.
Yeah.
But to get back to Reggie Jackson, in 1967 I was playing in Vancouver again, and I wasn't playing very well. And Reggie Jackson and Joe Rudy, 2 famous Oakland players who later became Oakland players, were sent up to Kansas City. So John McNamara, who I played for a number of years, who was a great manager, he actually phoned me and said, would I mind going down to Birmingham, which is 1 league lower, AA, from Vancouver, which was AAA in those days. So I went down there to play, and let me see. Oh, I was only there about a week when Jackson and Rudy got sent back down to Birmingham. So I ended up playing center field between Joe Rudy, who was a left fielder, and Reggie Jackson was the right fielder. And we also had, Tony La Russa, who became a famous manager, who's also in the Hall of Fame. And, Trudy, who helped me out here, my memory is failing me. The guy with the mustache, the reliever, the closer.
Not Jack. No, he would have been too young.
Rolly Fingers.
Yeah, Rolly Fingers there, yes, yeah.
Blue Moon Odom and Vita Blue were on the team also.
If you just think of this, if you had all those rookie cards from those guys, you wouldn't need that waterfront property in Port Moody.
No, but I had 2 boxes of baseball cards, and my mom threw them away.
That's what moms do, Yeah. You got to love them, because if they weren't for moms, you wouldn't be here. But they never really appreciated the baseball cards, did they?
No. I had Reggie. I had Mickey Mantle and all those guys.
Yeah. It's just you look at it, you probably take it for, well, I don't know if you do take it for granted, but some people do. But you've been blessed to be able to do what you do.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I love it. I never thought of baseball as work.
No. Now, who is your favorite player now? Because right now the Jays have been struggling. I know you've still got a bit of an emotional tie to the Jays because of Pat Gillick and such, and they are Canadian. But they're finally got over the injury hump a bit, and they put a couple of wins together. But who's your favorite player in all of MLB right now?
Well, it's probably still Michael Saunders, who played last year with the Blue Jays. He was a free agent who he's now playing for Philadelphia.
Nice.
He's a boy from Victoria. He's one of 7 kids that I have signed that got to the big leagues.
And you get to live your dream through them to an extent, don't you, by seeing that you gave these kids a chance. And, somebody else may have, but you're the one that did it.
Yeah, you like to follow them for sure.
Yeah. Now,
how they're doing.
With Seattle, because, Seattle's in the midst of, they're back east with Toronto right now. What do you think of this year's Seattle team?
I think they're getting a little better. And they're playing right now without 4 of their 5 starting pitchers are on the disabled list. So they're in worse shape probably than any team in baseball as far as injuries.
Yeah.
I know Toronto's got some key people hurt also, but 4 out of 5 starters is unheard of.
Well, and this is interesting. Okay, so you look at it. So when you played, I actually got to go back to another thought I had in a second, but I want to follow with this one first. there didn't seem to be the injuries. You guys were Iron Men, right? You kept going and going no matter what. And nowadays, it's like, he's injured, and everybody seems to be out with injuries.
Yeah, well, baseball is not a tough sport. I hate to say this, but if you get a little something wrong with your fingernail, you go to a trainer and you're put in a disabled list. When we played, we were afraid to go on the disabled list because it meant you might not get your job back.
Wow. Now, I'm gonna ask you about this one right now. We're gonna go back to Nat Bailey Stadium. That's still one of the most beautiful little ballparks in the world.
Yes, it is.
You were quite the stud back then. You were like the matinee idol.
Well, hear that, Judy? A stud. Yeah.
The heartthrob. And what was it like? Because you signing autographs. I'm not the kind of guy that has ever been able to sit and sign autographs, and I sort of lead a low profile life. But being where you were, I mean, you were playing for the Mounties then, right?
Yeah, which is my hometown.
Yeah. And being the only Canadian there, I mean, you had to have quite a big following back then.
Yeah, but it was probably the worst thing that happened to me because of the extra tension and pressure of performing before your friends and your family members.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah. And it's funny because I didn't know about the Mounties until about 1971. I walked into this office of a family friend, and he had an autographed baseball bat of the Mounties, and that was in 1971. So for all intents and purposes, I would say your name was probably on that bat at that time, the autograph. And I wish I knew where that bat was now. That would have been kind of cool to keep. We've got Wayne Norton here, the pride of Port Moody, baseball Canadian Hall of Famer. We're going to give him a little bit of a break. He's here to talk about the ALS walk. We're going to talk about that again. That's happening Sunday, June 4th, but we'll be back in a second here.
The good life is spending 7th at the Pitt Meadows Golf Club. Proudly supported by 98.7 The Point.
It's 8:35. Good morning. I've got Wayne Norton, the pride of Port Moody, Canadian Baseball Hall of Famer here. Wayne grew up, for all intents and purposes, here on the West Coast. He moved here when he was 5. He lived on Spring Street. He has a high school sweetheart that he married. Trudy has been quite quiet through all this. She might pipe in through part of this. But, Wayne, you two eloped during spring training. And that might have been an interesting story. How did that come about?
Well, actually, it wasn't during spring training. It was in November.
Oh, November training.
Yeah, and I was in winter baseball playing in Florida. And we got married when, Trudy, about a week after President Kennedy got assassinated. And plus, I wasn't playing because I was rooming with old Dick Green, Bob Flynn, and Lou Krause, who all ended up in the big leagues. I keep mentioning people got to big leagues except me. But I ended up cutting my thumb and got stitches in it. So I called Trudy, who was working in up here in Coquitlam as a dentist assistant. And I said, "Hey, let's get married. I can come home now because I'm hurt." And I said, "We can elope in Los Angeles and save our parents some money." So we did that. We got married in El Segundo, which is a small community outside of L.A. And then when we got home, her parents were so disappointed that we got married again, so I married her twice.
That's why you've been together 54 years. You can't leave. There's no clause.
Right.
There's no one clause in this.
Exactly right.
Trudy, you've been really quiet. What's it been like, if you want to move up a little closer to the mic, what's it been like being the wife of a professional athlete? Because whether he was playing or whether he was scouting, he's still a professional athlete. What's it been like?
It's been a wonderful life. We've done lots of traveling. I have one little story that came to mind when you talk about being married to a professional athlete, because you don't always pay that much attention. And some of my times in the ballpark were spent talking with other people rather than watching games.
That's the way it always is, though.
Although I've seen many, many baseball games, but one particular game, there was an injured player who was sitting in the stands behind us, and he tapped me on the shoulder as I was busy talking to one of the other wives to tell me that Wayne had hit, 2 or 3 home runs?
2 home runs.
2 home runs in one inning, one of which was a grand slam, and I had no clue.
That's pretty funny. Now, you were about a 300 batter, weren't you, career-wise, Wayne?
No, I wish I was. No, I
was
hit
a little lower?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
If I was a 300 hitter, I would have played in the big leagues for 10 years.
Yeah. Now, you look at it, like there's a lot of greats who do not make it to the big leagues for varying, or they might make it, they don't win a cup. And you could be one of those guys, but you don't dwell on that, do you? Because you're a pro.
Now, looking back now from a scout's eyes, I would say I didn't have the confidence, and I didn't hit to left field because I could field, run, and throw. But hitting for an average was a problem.
Yeah. What's the difference between baseball players, not the fact that you guys were tougher back then, but is there anything more finesse nowadays with today's ball players, or is it pretty much the same? You got to be able to do, hit to the opposite field or do whatever.
Well, makeup is becoming more important. It's a tough game. Baseball is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You play so many games. You got to learn how to play with adversity and things like that.
Yeah, and it's attention, too, because you can be out in center field watching butterflies, or you can focus on the game, right? And the slightest interruption in your thought process, you can miss that ball.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've been lucky enough, you've scouted some great people. Larry Walker's another one that you worked with. He was just a great all-around player, wasn't he?
Well, Larry was probably Canada's best position player ever. Ferguson Jenkins.
Oh, I forgot about him, yeah.
Fergie Jenkins, I played against him in Double-A in the Southern League when we were both trying to get up there. But Larry Walker, he would be in the Hall of Fame right now if it wasn't for he played so hard. He kept getting hurt all the time in the big leagues. But he still might make it.
I sure hope he does. Yeah. Now, with the baseball hall, I mean, it's just awards. You got the passion to play. What did your parents think when did you tell them I'm going to go play ball, or did you just sort of run away to the circus? How did that come about?
No, it just happened. After my first year in college, I had hurt my arm. I was trying to show them that I was a pitcher, so I couldn't pitch. And I was the only left-handed hitter on the team. So the coach put me in 6 times as a pinch hitter, and I got hits, all 6 times. So he started playing me in right field. And that's where the New York Yankee scout saw me. And he called the coach and asked if I could fly to Seattle at the end of the school year, and he would pick me up and drive me back. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow. Now, what were your parents like with your following your baseball career? Were they supportive, or were they like, parents are proud of you no matter what? Sometimes they just don't show it, right?
Yeah, well, my mom was probably a bit more supportive in that she would make an effort to try to get to some of the games. My dad did not. My dad was probably the best, if not the only carpenter in Port Moody when I was growing up. In fact, he built the United Church on St. John Street.
Wow.
And he was the only paid person. The rest was done by volunteers. And then, is it the Port Arms Hotel that he completely renovated himself? So I'm very proud of both of them.
Yeah, you look at that. Dad's bringing in the bread and that, and Mom, she had a full-time job too, raising the family. But that's kind of a cool story. The fact that you got the roots so deep here with your dad and that building the church and such.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we're going to let you go pretty quick here, but I want to talk again. This is Wayne Norton, the pride of Port Moody, a member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, still a scout with the Seattle Mariners, and Wayne has got the Walk for ALS.
Yes, that's on June the 4th, I think I mentioned.
Yeah.
And Derek Malpage, my future son-in-law. Derek, you might want to mention a few things.
Here, I'll just give you that mic right there, Derek. That one should be working fine.
Okay, thanks, Rod, and thanks for having us. I love your new station here, 98.7.
Thanks.
So what we want to do is do as much as we can for the cause of this horrible disease, ALS. So again, Sunday, June 4th, registration at 10 o'clock at the Riverside High School. And if you'd like to join our team, you can go to the walkforals.ca website and check out the team pages. And if you find Support the Nort, that's Wayne Norton's team.
Excellent. Support the Nort. Now, we this goes at Riverside. Now, before we let you go, Wayne, you got another tie to Riverside. Besides it being a Tri-City school, one of your ex-players is there.
Yeah, I started the National Baseball Institute, of which 9 players made the major leagues. The most notable would be Matt Stairs, Corey Koski, who?
Paul Spoljaric, yeah.
Paul Spoljaric from Kelowna, and Rob Butler, or to name just 4 of them.
Yeah.
But the program was started really for people like ordinary people who were good players who might play on the national team.
Yeah, and just to take a sidetrack, the NBI was schooling and baseball. It wasn't just baseball, right?
That's right. And they had to maintain grades, and they played up and down the West Coast. And a lot of players were good enough to play in the program. Like J.J. Hyde, who's now a vice principal at
Riverside
High School. And there's other people like BC kids, Rex Hayes and Rob Tanaka, who are still living in BC and working. But they're all coaching kids now and everything. And to me, that was more important than the kids who made it to the big leagues.
Yeah, you look at that and the things that people give back. And you just, when we talked about the NBI and then about giving back and that, there's that program in Wally they've got, and they seem to have a pretty decent program. And Chuck Bailey is somebody you probably crossed paths with a few times.
Yeah, Chuck Bailey was involved in Babe Ruth baseball in Wally when I was with the NBI because that was our home headquarters. We started the program in Vancouver. I was smart enough to hire John Haar 3 times, the third of which was the coach of the NBI, because I also managed Canada's national baseball team in the Pan Am Games in Mexico City in 1975. And then I hired John as a coach. And then I also started the National Youth Baseball program.
Nice. And there's so much talent here, isn't there?
Yeah, and I hired John in that program too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, back to the NBI in Surrey, the Roundup Cafe. What was your favorite meal out of that place?
Oh, breakfast.
Of course, the breakfast. You know what's...
Pierogies weren't too bad either.
Oh, that's great. My kid and I were there just a short time ago because my dad used to go there a lot when he was alive, and the Roundup has been there forever.
Or Spring and Natty.
Yeah.
And Ted and I can't think of the other boy's name. They both played with the NBI.
Yeah.
And Oris Spring and Natty, the dad owned the Roundup, and he was very big in Little League baseball.
Yeah, and it's still there today, and they still got that neon sign and that old building, and I think you're probably going to go there for breakfast.
Still there. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Wayne. Wayne Norton, the pride of Port Moody, a member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. You're welcome to come back anytime and share some stories if you want to. The Walk for ALS, Sunday, June 4th, Riverside, and the website again.
The website is walkforals.ca, and if you scroll to team page, you'll find Support the North if you want to support our team.
Excellent.
And if you don't mind, Rod, one more quick shout out to Christine Hilliard, the coordinator, and Wendy Toyer, the CEO of ALS BC. I want to thank you both. And of course, our sponsors, a big gold sponsor from Women in Film in in Vancouver. So a big thank you to them, and a local little business here called the Willie's Galley. And Willie and Tammy have became bronze sponsors, so we want to thank them for that. And they have an event coming up that we will list up on the website very soon.
Excellent.
Yeah, the Willie's Galley is at the Reed Point Marina.
Reed Point Marina,
just outside of Port Moody here.
Yeah, so take the boat down and have some lunch down there.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for being here today, and you guys have yourself a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on June 4th.
Good. Thanks, Rod.
Thank you.